All right. Hello, next level creator community. I have on with me today Andrew Rurik from Southern California, and he's got an incredible story. He is a graduate from film school. He has done some amazing things in the film industry. He's been in it for a long time, and he has joined the Next Level Creators program and just recently landed his very first commercial campaign for over $1,000 a month in management, $12,000 a year for his business doing commercials and distribution. So today we're just going to talk about what his experience was like, first seeing Next Level Creators, like how he interacted with us, how skeptical he was, of course, of is this a real thing? Is Paul a scam? And then joining Next Level Creators, getting to meet us, getting to be in the community, and what his experience has been like going through the program, getting his first client, and where he's at now and what he's planning to do after that. So, Andrew, welcome. Thank you so much for doing this.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. So I always like to start these things off by kind of starting off with where you were before you joined the program and what your history was. So can you tell me, when did you know you wanted to be a video creator?
I knew I wanted to do stuff creatively with video from about the time that I saw the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I knew instinctively as like a 6-year-old, and why my parents were letting me watch this at 6 is still a mystery to me. But that the cartoon characters that I was watching and the humans that I knew existed, and I knew that, they weren't real, the cartoons, but I saw them interacting and I went, that's magic. And I want to do something with that. I want to be a part of that creative process. And so shortly after that, picked up a camera for a first grade project and blew the teacher away, and then have been kind of producing stuff ever since.
Yeah. So all the way since first grade, and before, it was your passion was ignited. That's like so many of us, we have that passion for video. Me and my brothers, we used to make home videos when we were kids at our beach house. Well, not our beach house, but the vacations we went on when we were kids. And so through that, of course, you had this spark of passion. You fell in love with video. What was it like after that, right? First grade, do a video project. And then how did video show up throughout your life over the next few years as you evolved into high school and then into, college?
Yeah. So I kept doing video stuff, and I got hired by like friends' parents to shoot events that they had in the early high school and beyond. And then went to film school, graduated from there, worked in Hollywood for a couple years as a lighting technician on movies and TV shows and music videos, things like that. But the whole time,
any movies we would know?
A couple that played at Sundance in like 2010, 11, none that really were huge. But I always kind of kept getting calls from clients that I had met, randomly, who knew I did video stuff. And they were like, hey, can you shoot for our company or our product launch or what have you? And I just kind of kept getting more and more of that work, and it kept paying better than the day rates as an electrician on a film set. And I kept finding more enjoyment in that and getting to work with more interesting people. And the hours were a little bit less hectic. They're still hectic, but they're less hectic for the most part.
Yeah.
So I was full-time freelancing, or I have been for many years now, but kind of hit, and I think we're probably leading into the next question, but kind of hit a wall with ROI. So making a video for someone costs them money. It's an investment on their part. And so much of my uphill battle was trying to convince people of the worth of the video that I was making for them when they saw a number on an estimate going, holy crap, like, why that? And then the subsequent question being, well, how do we know if it works? And me going, that's a great question. YouTube hits, and never being able to give a direct correlation between the product that we put together for them and its effectiveness, and never being able to draw or illustrate that there's a way to draw a straight line from point A to point B and measure the effectiveness of spread or reach or of direct sales if it's for a specific product, things like that. So that was kind of the impetus, and that was really, for me, that was the selling point to join up and learn, because it's insane to me how many opportunities I was not able to capitalize on because I didn't have a way to prove an ROI to someone who was there with, checkbook in hand going, okay, as long as you can prove to me that this money's worth it, it's yours. And I just had to say, honestly, I don't know if I can.
Yeah. And that, honestly, that shows a lot about your character. The fact that you were transparent enough to say, I don't know. And to tell people like, yeah, I do great video, but I don't know if these videos are working. And so that inherently you saw the missed opportunity cost is what we would call that, right? Like yep. you have one skill set where you're incredibly good at video, but the missing of that link with distribution is what was causing this problem and this gap, not allowing you to get the higher value sales you wanted.
Mm-hmm. And even, there were times where, even distribution, I would produce a video completely done, deliver it to a client 2 years later, still hasn't seen the light of day because they're not aware of how to distribute it. And that was kind of the tension, was either I was distributing it with not a really clear vision for how to do that, or trusting that the client would distribute it in a way that was effective, and just kind of washing my hands of it at that point and going, okay, here you go.
Yeah.
Go with God, like, good luck.
And it's almost, I remember, because I've done the same thing. I've shot videos for people and not distributed them before. And I remember them putting them on their website, and then I checked the YouTube views. It's like, it's been on there for 4 months. It has 53 views. You're like, yay, right. That was a great $3,000 investment. Right? 53 people are very happy. And I remember like actually thinking that was a good thing for me, because I was like, thank goodness I didn't have to figure out how to distribute that.
Right.
I would have failed. But then I started thinking about it. And I remember talking to one of my business mentors at the time, who was a Facebook advertiser. And he was like, you really aren't looking at things clearly. Like it's your responsibility to add value to the client.
Right.
Not just to make money and deliver something pretty. So tell me a little bit, because before you got into Next Level Creators, what was your average video project size? Were you kind of varying all over the place, or?
It was all over the map, ranging from kind of managing, coordinating full crew productions of 5 to 7 or more people to, hey, we need you and a camera, and you're going to edit it later. And that's just kind of all we have the budget for. So it's kind of everything from full small scale commercial production to just one-man band, run and gun kind of operation. Yeah.
And so all over the place, which means you probably had a pretty up and down income for those months as well. And how long were you in that business model?
Oh, probably off and on for the better part of about 5 years.
And that's kind of what I see. It's an off and on business model, right? 1 year you'll make 6 figures. The next year you'll make even more than that. And you're like, wow, this is the best business model. And then all of a sudden the economy takes a little bit of a shift, and your off and on business model is not something you want to rely on anymore.
Right.
And for marketing, where most of your clients is coming, like you said, it's kind of referrals and word of mouth. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very little, up until about 18 months ago, I didn't have a website or anything. It was purely just referral, word of mouth. And it worked for a while. I mean, it worked relatively consistently. But it just, you kind of get to a point where you go, oh, I don't want to rely on chance anymore. As much as I don't have, if I can remove a couple of variables in this game of chance of, finding or soliciting or having people come knock on my door. I should probably do that.
And I think I would call it an inflection point
Mm-hmm.
in a creative's career, where they decide that, you know what, hey, I realize that there's this gap, that I don't have the business acumen I need to get to that next level, whether that's to get there for my family, to get my income up, to, have more freedom, more time for it, whatever it may be. And so that inflection point hits where you say, all right, the cost of doing the same thing is now higher than the cost of learning these business skills,
Mm-hmm.
strategies that are needed to get to that next level. And for you, of course, you came across Next Level Creators.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find us, and what was the messaging that you initially saw?
So it came at a point where I was in one of the drier seasons. And so, and I had kind of been sitting there, twiddling my thumbs, like waiting for the phone to ring kind of thing, or, a prospective client to email or whatever, waiting for the
hope marketing.
Yeah, exactly. Very effective. Highly recommend. And so the initial language was just the initial thing that stood out was removing some of the guesswork from people showing up, from people, like, rather than having to like go seek out opportunities coming. And so that was kind of an initial driver to say, okay, I wonder what this is about. And then secondarily, and which ultimately became more important, was kind of like we chatted about earlier, was the value add ROI stamp, or kind of addition to what I was already doing, and being able to not only produce a video, but say, hey, we can also show you how it's being effective, and we can increase your sales, and we can partner with you as an extension of your company and your goals to help you achieve what you want, and by that achieve what we're looking to do too. And so that was kind of the second bullet point that became a primary driver for being a part of this community.
Yeah. And so huge value add by adding distribution. And then other big value add was no longer relying on hope marketing, and being able to get business owners to come to you,
mm-hmm.
and wanting to reach out to you, and not just saying, hey, Andrew, I want you to shoot my video, but saying, hey, Andrew, I want you to run my commercial campaign and help me grow my business, and work in a win-win scenario where we both grow together.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, that was the message that stood out to you. How skeptical were you if this was the real thing?
I don't know if I was really skeptical at too many points along the way. I'm a fan of, or not a fan is maybe the wrong word, but I've long been comfortable with learning things outside of my immediate skill set, and or paying for knowledge that I don't presently have. So I know that, if I wanted to Google, how to add value to being a production company, I could read a dozen articles and 25 books and spend hours and hours and hours figuring it out on my own. Or, hey, if this works, I've saved myself so much time, so much effort in trying to figure it out on my own. And there seemed to be kind of enough documented case studies of successful people like myself joining up. Sorry, not successful people like myself, but people like me joining up and becoming successful. That it was, at the very least, it was a compelling statement and compelling enough for me to go, okay, if this works, like, it's going to be worth it. And even if it doesn't totally work as advertised, there's going to be some stuff in here that I can borrow And at the very least, there's going to be stuff that I learned that's going to be helpful long term. So it was kind of it made more sense to do it than it didn't, even if it wasn't everything that was advertised, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And we had a little bit of a pre-chat, of course, before this, just so you and I could get connected on what this interview is going to be like for everyone listening. And you told me that, you know, at the time when you were looking at Next Level Creators, you actually had a client that you were thinking about running a commercial campaign for.
It was less that than it was, I had already shot the videos for them. So I'd gotten hired to shoot videos for a Facebook ad campaign. And that was it. So I had gotten hired to shoot them, and then I had delivered them and was like, okay, you know, check that box. They're done. Kind of moving on to the next thing. And started going through some of the content and was like, okay, hold on. I wonder who is managing their Facebook campaign that I just shot these videos for. And so I went back to these guys that I had just worked with, and I said, hey, you know, out of curiosity, what is your plan for these? How are you planning on, you know, growing your Facebook page? How are you planning on, you know, doing, you know, garnering sales? How are you planning on building, you know, a market? And their answer was, well, we're going to post a bunch of stuff and watch it grow organically. And I kind of went, oh, that's fascinating. You know, organic growth. And I just I think earlier that day I had read the research punch list with just a couple of bullet points on it. And, you know, organic growth is not a thing. And it was top of mind already. And I kind of was like, so I need you guys to be aware that organic growth just doesn't happen anymore. And kind of was able to rattle off some stats. And I could hear over the phone their voices sort of go, oh, so what should we do? And I went, well, funny you should ask. And from there was able to kind of almost like reverse engineer having already shot some videos for them into a commercial campaign that they were already planning on doing. They just didn't know how to do it at that point.
Sure.
So it was kind of this weird, almost backwards kind of piecemeal together, but it totally worked out. Yeah. It was a great way to accidentally stumble into this world.
And so I mean, we talked about it. You joined the program. You have this client you'd already shot in videos for. You're having this conversation with them. You're going through our training. You see the punch list. You learn these stats that, of course, help you close the deal. But you attended a Q&A call with us. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you were kind of asking questions like, how do I get a deal across the line if I have someone who's really hot wanting to do this right now? Do you remember what your biggest takeaways were from getting right into that program that, for one, gave you the confidence to do this? And then for two, like what parts of Next Level Creators helped you to make this happen?
I think for me, it was a couple of things. So the use, especially in answering those questions, were really helpful in saying like, hey, the down and dirty, go to this spot and do this stuff, and then go to this other spot and do this stuff. And that'll be enough to kind of like get you across this specific finish line. And then once you're there, here's these other things that you'll need to do. But for the time being, like, do these right now and you're good to go ish. And it gave me the language that I didn't immediately have to communicate effectively with this potential client and kind of be like, okay, look, here are a few things that we need to be looking for. It gave me questions to ask them. It gave me, like you said, the confidence to be able to approach them and sound like I know what I'm talking about, even though I had some basis. I had tried to kind of do it before. Like I said, I'm all about, like, I'm okay with paying for knowledge that I don't have. And I had tried to do it kind of once before and it didn't super work out at all, which I think maybe even led me to be more open to being like, okay, where did I go wrong? What did I do wrong the first time? And it gave me just sort of the resources immediately to confidently approach and say like, hey, look, here's what we're going to do. What do you think? Like, let's do this. And they went, yeah, okay, let's do this. Sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's good. So it was really a matter of focus, knowing where to go at the right time and what to do at the right time to get that deal across the line. And of course, to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success with that deal that you got. And so now you're in a position where you've solidified your first commercial campaign deal.
Yep.
And since when was that date that the client came in? Do you remember?
So it was the latter part of September,
Okay.
or mid to late September. And then we've kind of moved a little slower than I had hoped. Partly my fault. I had a bunch of work that I had booked for the month of October and had been on the road. And so we're finally just kind of kicking it off. We kind of kicked it off this last week. So I don't much yet have, I don't have much by way of results to kind of be like, yeah, and it worked out super great. So we're still sort of in the very beginning stages of getting it up and running. But you know, we're seeing people sign up on email lists. You know, we had a sale it's for a sale for
there we go.
So you know, we had a sale, and that's, you know, that's one more sale than we had before. So I mean.
And for anyone who's listening right now, this is the way every commercial campaign starts out. And I say this, you cannot panic in the very beginning of launching a commercial campaign. You're going to be starting small. You're not going to be launching with hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars here. We're trying to get small wins. And your campaign is set up to where we have the strongest message possible, set up to go to your ideal client, the place where we think they are most likely hanging out. And we launch, and we're testing. It's a hypothesis that we're testing in the marketplace with these awesome videos we created and some simple distribution we put together. And we get to have a lot of fun. It's like we get to wear our science hat for a little while, and boom, you've already gotten a sale. So here's what happens next, right? Andrew, you've launched a campaign, you've gotten a sale, things are moving, and now we get to double down on what's working and remove the waste.
Yep.
And this is exactly the same thing that Daryl did for his client, you know, over in Australia. He got his skincare client. He was working with them on Facebook ads. He launched. Tons of things worked. Tons of things didn't. They about broke even or went a little bit negative, turned off what wasn't working, and then boom, profit and return on investment for that client's commercial campaign just skyrocketed up to about, you know, 4.5 or 4.5x ROI, which is huge.
Yeah.
You know, spend $1, make $4.50, not too bad.
You know, I think if anybody could get that kind of ROI, they'd be super into it.
So that's where we are with your campaign right now, which is really, I mean, it's one of my favorite things. You're at that indoctrination period. And the key to being successful at this point in the indoctrination period is just observation.
Mm-hmm.
What works? What doesn't? What about your videos are people liking? Is anyone saying negative things? What are they saying negative? How do we work that into the next version of the commercial, right? Like, yep. And it's just a process, and it's wonderful that we can actually see, interact, and then see everything from point of view, click, to what they're doing on the page and how they're buying. So
yep.
That's wonderful. And so now with where you're at, you've got this campaign that's launched. You're, of course, earning an income for them. You're in this optimization period here where we have to get them results, and we're going to. And what's next for you and your business? Where are you planning to take this over 2019?
Yeah. So the irony is I don't think that this particular business falls within the niche that I'm going for. They just kind of happen to be there. So I'm still working through figuring out what that is and where kind of the next steps of that are going to be. But going through some of the clients that I've done one-off videos for, or even done ongoing video support for, and trying to see how this can be beneficial or effective, and almost reverse engineering a couple other clients into larger campaigns, larger management budgets, things like that, because a couple of them are doing things with social media, with ad campaigns and things like that. And so kind of asking good questions about what the effectiveness is, what the effectiveness levels are, what are they, hitting their targets, or do they feel like it's being effective, and trying to see if from other pre-existing clients there's interest there in taking their campaigns to the next level.
Yep.
While I kind of work on figuring out where exactly it is I want to take that stuff to.
Yeah. And that's a great place to be. You've got a client, you're building what we call our proof of concept, which is our proof that this works. I know how to get results. I can get results. And then we can leverage that expertise to bring in more clients. And it's that snowball effect, that compounding effect of doing the right thing over time, and how that gradually and exponentially continues to improve for you. So that's really exciting. And where do you want to be in terms of revenue in the next year? Do you have a target that you're really shooting for?
It's a bit nebulous, but it is enough so that my wife can come on full time with me.
That was one of my biggest things I wanted to do in my business, was to get my partner, Miranda, in my company as well. And of course we've done it, but it's a special moment, the day that can happen. And I'm excited for you to make it happen. Is she excited about that too?
Yeah. So we've gotten to do a couple of shoots together. We've gotten to do a little bit of traveling with work together, and she does some with me already, but we're just trying to kind of manage the transition, both in terms of extraditing her from the job that she's in currently and making sure that, all the finances are there. So
of course. Yeah. And the good news, of course, is with commercial campaigns, it's recurring, it's easy to forecast. And we know if we're getting our clients results, they're going to stick with us, because who would ever turn down $4 to 1?
Right.
So that's great. And in terms of the types of videos that you shoot, a lot of people think when it comes to commercial campaigns that, you're basically stuck with talking head videos, and you have to shoot really boring style videos. What kind of styles and videos, and what's your background in terms of styling and things that you like to do with the videos you're making?
I have a background in both music videos and a lot of nonprofit storytelling. So I've done a lot of work with nonprofits and companies that have like 4 good elements to them, if that makes sense. And I've spent probably the better part of a decade learning just how to craft good stories that aren't just talking heads, that's using B-roll, rather that's stuff that we're culling together ourselves, or stuff that's pre-existing, and repackaging into something that is compelling and leaves an impact and calls people to action in, whether that's donating or getting involved or things like that. So I kind of bring these 2 weird ends of the spectrum to bear on the stuff that I create.
And that's awesome, because that's you bringing your artistic mindset and creative, thought process to this whole idea of differentiating companies. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about what we get to do, is we really do have creative freedom, right? And clients look to us for that. I know in my dealings with like one of our financial advisor clients, for example, right? Whenever we're working with them, they're not telling us what kind of video to create.
Right.
I'm advising them. I say, all right, well, we're going to need at least a couple testimonial interview styles or direct testimonials. We're going to need a nice demonstration commercial which shows how your financial advising is different, right? And we can do that in a documentary style. We can do that in a really simple, heck, I'll do a slideshow if you want to style.
Right.
We can do whatever you want. But the creative aspect of it is you have freedom to choose. And that's really the beauty there. Wonderful. Great. Well, I don't really have any other major questions. Is there anything that you would say in regards to your experience so far with Next Level Creators? Would you recommend it to anyone else who wants to be a successful video creator, director, filmmaker, and just any overall final thoughts you'd have for someone considering it?
I would say that it's a specific type of creative that this would be very beneficial for. And I think that for those of us that are kind of stuck in the grind of trying to find new work and are worried about where the new work is coming from, it's been just sort of a massive mindset shift in terms of how and why and where, and aligning priorities with, and just a whole host of things that I didn't have before that I have now, and a different set of a different lens that I approach things with and look at things with. For someone who is looking to just do narrative film production, this might not be your thing. But if you are a freelancer who's putting together productions for companies and you're worried about the phone not ringing anymore, this would definitely be something that's worth the investment. It's worth checking out, and it'll change the way you think about what you do.
I really appreciate that. That's very nice. And
you got it.
And also just very, very, very good to get to know you on a deeper level today, Andrew. Our Q&A calls, sometimes we'll have chats and we'll answer questions, but it's always good to get to meet people more in person, do these interviews and hear your stories. And I was telling Andrew before this, whenever I see someone get their first client, something about it just makes me jump for joy, because it's that inflection point where the person now knows this is real and their business is about to rapidly move in a positive direction. So congratulations once again. And thank you for doing this interview.
Of course, my pleasure.
Yeah. All right. We'll stop it right there.